Hi, welcome to episode 221 of The Corner of Knit and Tea. My name is Laura. I'm also known as Fluffy K on Ravelry, Fluffy Kira on Instagram and Twitter. I blog over at thecornerofknitandtea.com, and that's where this episode and every episode show notes will be. I have an Etsy shop called The Corner of Knit and Tea, where I sell my handspun yarns, and we have a Ravelry group called The Corner of Knit and Tea. Hi, how are you? It is Sunday, let me think about this, March 10th. It is about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and I am coming to you from Kansas City, or just outside Kansas City, really. And I don't know even where to start. This week has been kind of crazy stressful, so I'm a little bit all over the place. I've been trying to take the weekend to relax. The weather is the weather. It was 50 and rainy yesterday. Today it is back into the 30s and 40s, but I do believe this week we're going to hover in the 40s, which is nice because it means that we can go outside without freezing, and that would be absolutely lovely. And the sun has even peeked out yesterday and today, which I didn't realize how long it had been since we had seen the sun. It has been so gray and cold and rainy and snowy and icy here this winter, and I just didn't even think about the fact that we have not seen the sun in very long. And then we went out yesterday and I had I was sitting in the front seat of the car just soaking in all the sun's warmth, and I was so happy, and I just realized how much it had affected me. So I'm glad that we are heading towards spring, even though I'm sure it will be rainy and muddy and all of that. And I've got a window right over here, which is why I sometimes look that direction, especially when I'm talking about the weather. So that is sort of what's going on here. Like I said, it was a bit of a stressful week with work and other things, and even some in my crafting, you'll see, I just feel sometimes like I'm spinning my wheels, and this is kind of both work and some of my crafts at the same time, and we'll talk about that as I go through, and a little bit about what I am trying to do to make it better. The first thing that I'm going to try and do and make it better is I'm going to take a couple days off this week. The Arkansas Pen Show is down in Fountain Pen Show, well, pen show, but primarily fountain pens, is down in Little Rock this coming weekend, and I have a friend who was going and was planning to go with another friend, and they were going to kind of help each other run their booths, and the friend couldn't go, so I am going to go with her and help her run her booth and just do a pen show, and we'll leave on Thursday and probably come home Monday morning or afternoon. So I don't know when the next podcast will be, probably Monday. I may have to put it off till Tuesday, but we'll just have to see. So the podcast will be a little bit delayed next weekend, but hopefully I will have lots to tell you. And it is a 6-hour drive down to Arkansas and back, and she prefers to drive because she says I drive like a grandma. So I will probably get to knit both ways, which means I should have some more finished things to show you. So slightly delayed podcast next week. So let's start on the regular stuff. Today I am drinking organic coconut black tea from Tea Time Scottsdale. I got this on my trip down there in January, and Liz has sent me some before. It is delicious. It is a black tea full of coconut, and I brewed it today in this cool mug that my aunt sent me earlier, well, I guess late last year. I think it was technically supposed to be a Hanukkah present, but it came weeks later, so I don't remember whether it came at the beginning of this year or late last year, but it's kind of an interesting shape, and I really enjoy the mug, and the tea smells amazing. If you like coconut, it's great. If you don't like coconut, not so much. So that is delicious. Let's get started. I have one finished object for this week, and I am very excited. I didn't know if I was going to be able to finish it. I actually did the last couple rows and bound off this morning. So this is the Drifter Shawl, and it is by Tammy Gore. And I loved this pattern. This is it is a triangle shawl pattern, and I guess I should talk about the materials too. I knit this out of yarn that I'm reviewing, and it is Bijou Spun Gobi, which is a blend of camel and silk. It is 65% silk, 35% baby camel. And Bijou Basin Ranch, their tagline is quality exotic fibers and yarns. They are lovely. I have tried a number of their bases, and they're all really luxurious. They are a little bit pricier than standard fingering weight skeins, but that is because they use the luxury fibers. Anyway, these were sent to me for free. I had two colors. One was Ire, which is this beautiful purple, and I only have about 5 grams of that left after finishing the shawl. And the other colorway was Asgard, which is this great kind of green and purple and orange, and they go together. I was a little worried that the contrast wouldn't be enough, but after seeing it last week on the camera, and a couple of you reassured me that the contrast was definitely enough. And this one I have, I think, about 17 grams left. So overall, the shawl took, I haven't gone back and looked, but the shawl took between about 775 and 800 yards-ish. And each of these is, does it say? It is, yes, is 435 yards for 3.5 ounces. So it's a 100-gram skein, 435 yards, and I want to say I used like right around 800, and I'm not sorry. I mean, I wish I could have used it all up, but I'm not sorry that I have little bits left over. And so let's talk about the shawl. The pattern is fabulous. It is well written. It is easy to understand. She gives you some guidance in terms of carrying unused yarns up the sides, which in some cases I remembered to do, and in some cases I forgot to do, so I have more ends to weave in than technically I should. And all the ends that you see, they are woven in, but I have not had a chance to wash and block the shawl yet. And usually I try and trim the ends after. While I'm talking, I feel like I'm racing through this, and one of my best friends to me said, you need to slow down. So I'm gonna try and slow down a little bit so I'm not talking like crazy. So this is a great pattern. This is one of those asymmetrical triangle shawls. So you start at a point and you start in one color. This is the Ire, which is the purple, and then you move up to gradually add in other colors. The drifter shawl is written so that it can be done with multiple colors, or like a main color and a whole bunch of mini skeins, or there is a version of 2 colors. And basically, so within the same pattern, all the versions are there that give you some ideas on where you might change your colors. So I did the 2-color version. And so there's lots of interplay between garter stitch and some textured stitch, and moving through and kind of combining the colors together, and they really come together nicely. I really, actually, once I saw this last week, I was pleased with the way the colors came together, so you can kind of see that. I will say that I misspoke. I thought it was a mesh stitch, and it is not. It is a texture stitch, and that's all I'm gonna say, because it is a paid-for pattern. But it was a lovely pattern, and like I said, it was super clear. And then kind of as the Find Your Fade and some of these triangular shawls do, then you get to the section where you are knitting a constant number, but you are moving from equal halves to then decreasing on 1/2. So then you are working through the colors again, still all the way to the end. And what you end up with is a very nice kind of oblong asymmetrical triangle. I can't even get it all in here, and it's not blocked yet. My plan is to block this lightly because it is mostly garter stitch, and so I don't want it to grow to be absolutely huge. I haven't decided what exactly is going to happen with this one yet. I might keep it, although it is really nice, and I'm thinking about maybe giving it to my mom for Mother's Day. So again, it's the Asgard and the Ire colorways in the Gobi yarn. Like I said, the pattern by Tammy Gore was fabulous. So is the yarn. It is absolutely luscious. That's part of the reason that I'm debating not giving it away, but I think I'm gonna give it to my mom. It is beautiful. I would definitely buy 2 more skeins and or 3 more skeins and do a big shawl for myself, because I absolutely loved it. It is a little splitty to work with, but I think that is primarily because it is very short stapled. Well, silk is not short stapled, but the baby camel is short stapled. It is a plied yarn. But other than that, I had no problems with it, and I did have to rip once or twice when I made a mistake, and I didn't have any problem ripping and then putting it back in. It didn't really stick to itself. It's got a lot of drape and a little bit of kind of shine and shimmer, and that's probably because of the silk, and I think that's all I can say about this, but I had a lovely time knitting it. Thanks to Bijou Basin Ranch, who sent me the yarn for free. There will be a blog post about this week, or possibly next week, basically as soon as I block and take photos. So that is one of them off the needles and about 800 yards, and it took me about 2 weeks, which is not bad at all. So earlier this week, I was like, I want to finish something, so I'm just going to work on one thing. And so I pretty much worked on this all week and finished it off. So I'm very pleased with that. Can highly recommend the yarn and the pattern. So that one is done. Moving on to the next knit that was on the needles. This one has seen some progress this week, not a ton. I did take it to knit night. This is the project I plan to take in the car with me for my trip this weekend. So I am still working on the Wrapped in Brioche shawl. That is by Roxanne Yoon. This is the second one in her Zen Yarn Garden Luxe Blanks, which is her... now I have to think about it. It's the merino silk, and it is lovely. One of the colors is called Luminous and the other is called Woodlands. The green side is Luminous, and you can see I've now gotten through the kind of bright emeraldy green, and now I'm into some of the yellowy greens. And then the back side is called Woodlands, and I started in the purple up top, and I am now going down into the brown, and there is also a little bit of green in this one, which makes the brioche rows a little bit, I don't want to say difficult, but they look, so in brioche, particularly in two-color brioche, you're using the two colors, and one side is the right side, which is one side dominant, and one side is the wrong side, which is the other color dominant. So for instance, this is the luminous dominant side because it's got the green, and this is the woodlands dominant side because it's got the purple and brown, which is the woodlands colorway. In the rows where you've kind of got green and brownish green, and it's a little bit closer of a contrast, and so sometimes I have to look at it to remember which side I'm on. It will move out of it again because, like I said, you know, there's huge contrast up here, so it will go back to that. This is a great pattern. It is a free pattern. I would definitely categorize it as a brioche for beginners. It is fairly simple brioche, and then you just have increases at the sides and at the center. And the deal is that this is a 4-row repeat, and outside of the setup, you just keep repeating the same 4 rows, and one of the rows is an increase row, and everything else is kind of a solid state row. And I'm not giving too much away, and it is a free pattern. So yeah, so I knit this one once before as a sample, and this one is going to be for my sister for her birthday. And like I said, my hope is that I can work on this quite a bit this week and maybe get this one done because I have plenty of things to move into. So that is that one. And like I said, I don't have a ton of progress on it, but I'm pretty happy with it. And that will be my focus project for this week. So that brings me to one of the challenges for this week. So last week well, this has been a couple weeks going, and let me just grab my sock blocker. So I started knitting the Pebbles and Pathway socks by Marceline Smith. She is Hey Brownberry. And I first started knitting it in my hand spun, and my gauge was really weird, and I just didn't love the way it was coming out. Which is my choice in yarn, not the pattern's fault. This one this week is also not the pattern's fault, but I'm starting to get frustrated. So last week I showed you that I had picked a new yarn to work in, and I had decided just to go with a plain spring green, and unfortunately I still don't remember what this is. It was yarn that I got at a yarn shop that is now closed. It is a bright acid green, and I thought it would be kind of fun for spring. So I worked the sock all the way through the heel this week, which was my goal, and the heel is enormous. Like way too big to fit me. So this is what I've got so far. Like I said, I'm working the Pebbles and Pathway pattern, which is a really nice kind of cabled with some garter ridges in between. And I worked up the toe. It's a toe up, heel, gusset, and flap, and I worked it. And as you can see, there's lots of room on the sock blocker, and there's a ridiculous amount of room on my foot, even though I adjusted these down to my size. And I put them on the other night after I finished the heel, expecting to be like, great, now I can move on. And I can't because the heel's too big, and I can't decide if I'm just going to rip it back or if I'm just going to rip out the whole sock and start again. So I'm a little frustrated with this one because, like I said, I feel like I am spinning my wheels and knitting and re-knitting. I have a couple options with this sock. I could knit it as it is, but I probably won't wear it because the heels are too big. So that means I got to do something to rip it. I could rip it back and do slightly fewer increases on the toe up gusset. But if I'm being honest, the toe up gusset heel flap has never fit me very well. The best thing that fits me is a top down with heel flap and gusset. And I don't know why it is that it should fit better. Well, I guess I kind of do. Huh. Well, okay, so in this toe up, heel flap, and gusset, everything here was worked in stockinette. And when I do a heel flap and gusset from the top down, I usually do a slip one, knit one, which creates something that looks a little bit, almost a little bit like a ribbing. And it pulls the heel in kind of tight. So that probably is part of the reason for this. Anyway, so I wanted to knit the pattern as written, but I'm just, okay, so here are my options. Leave it as is, probably not an option. Pull the heel back and do fewer stitches on the heel and or try and do some kind of ribbing back here. Not sure about that one. Could do that. Probably would be the easiest to do that. Not really sure. The other thing that I'm thinking about doing just because is I am thinking about ripping the whole thing out. And then I have two options. One is that I can start the sock again with the pattern and just do it top down. It means the cables will cross upside down, but I don't know that that's really a problem for these. I'm not sure it will make that much of a difference because I could just knit them opposite, I guess. Because like now it looks like the cables are pointing away from the center of the foot, but if I do it upside down, they'd be pointing, I'd just have to do the cables reversed towards the center, but then they would basically appear the same way. So there's that option, or I could rip and do a different sock entirely. And I don't know whether I'm leaning towards restarting the same sock or whether I'm potentially going to call it quits on this pattern for now and do something different. There is nothing wrong with the pattern. What is challenging to me is I have extremely small feet. So most patterns that are written in one size, as this pattern is, are written for a 64 stitch sock, and truthfully most of the time I knit a 56 or a 60 inch sock. So basically what's happening is the pattern is fine, my feet are just too small for it. And I'm not thinking ahead enough to make enough arrangements for that. I mean, this is on 56 stitches, but I think because I probably should have done fewer stitches for the heel. Yeah, so this is my frustration for this week. And I really just want to knit a pair of socks that will fit me. So the other pattern that I'm considering is on my Make 9. I hate giving up. Well, okay, I hate failing at things. I hate failing at things over and over. I hate ripping. I get frustrated. And truthfully, I should just exercise more patience, and that would probably make me be a better knitter. But so the thing that's happening is I don't know what I'm going to do with these. I'm leaning towards probably ripping it and doing a different sock pattern for now. And one of the sock patterns that I am considering, because it is on my Make 9 for the year, is the Coffee Talk socks. They are by Tracy Miller Tracy Miller. She is one half of the Grocery Girls. And if I do that, I'm probably going to use this gray up here. So I'll probably use that for, I was going to do probably cuffs and toes. I was thinking about doing it for the heel, but I think this is superwash merino with no nylon, so I'm not sure how that will wear. And it's a little bit thinner than this. I don't know what I'm doing. So, yeah. I don't know what I'm doing, but this one will probably be ripped out by the time I talk to you again. So that is a little frustrating because I feel like I've been fighting with that for the last couple weeks and I haven't really wanted to knit on it. And I want to knit on it because the pattern is beautiful and I want the socks. So I'm just not sure where I'm going to go with that. So that is one of the frustrating things for this week. The final project that I have been working on this week, and I told you a little bit about this last week, so I just didn't bring it to show, is I am working on a charity hat Lion Brand has launched, I talked about this last week, but Lion Brand has launched a Hat Not Hate campaign. They actually did it this past year. Basically, they are anti-bullying. And the Hat Not Hate is you knit blue hats and send them to Lion Brand, and they distribute them on worldwide, I think it's worldwide or international anti-bullying day. And this past year, I think that was in the fall. I want to say it was around October. And I have been thinking about wanting to do more charity knits. And I went through my stash, and I had a bunch of different things in my stash that I had collected at various times but not really used. And one of them is Peyton's Classic Wool worsted weight, and the colorway is New Denim, and this is the color. So it's a blue, it's like a skyish blue. It's a little bit more matte, but it's not a super dark blue. And the hat pattern that I decided to knit is called the January hat. It is by Courtney Kelly of Kelburn Woolens. This is not the yarn that it calls for, but it is a worsted weight yarn, so it works. And it's a little hard to see, but I've done kind of the first half of the chart, which is this great, it's cables and baubles. And so it takes a little bit to knit, but I think it's going to be really pretty. I've done the first half. Basically the cables will now go back up into a diamond, and so now we'll get another triangle of baubles, and then there is a chart for the crown. This is a free pattern. Like I said, it's called the January hat. It is on Ravelry. It is linked on my project page. And my hope actually is that I could maybe focus on this and get this done tonight or this week so that I can send this one off to them. I'll probably do more. I have more hat patterns in my queue, and I have at least one more ball of this color blue. And then I have some other blue. I just decided I wanted to get into a little bit more charity knitting, and I also needed something good to kind of put by my desk for when I'm in conference calls or webinars, and I need a little something to work on. And I did have to follow the chart a little bit on this one, so this one wasn't the perfect choice for that, but it is working up really nicely, and I think it will be a nice hat. So that is my plan there, the January hat in Patton's Classic Wool for Hat Not Hate. And if you want to learn more about Hat Not Hate, you can just Google it, and Lion Brand's page will come up. There is an address to send them to. They talk about the cause, and there are a lot of great people involved. So I'm just really excited to do something for it. I also found a bunch of wool in some bright colors and some gray. And so I think my next charity project might be for the Mother Bear Project. I ordered the pattern this week. That is for teddy bears, and I think they send the teddy bears to children, either children who have AIDS or children whose parents have AIDS. And so they have this cute little, it's a hand knit teddy bear, and it's got like a little, the deal is it's the bear, and I thought I would use the gray for the bear, and then it's got like it's wearing a sweater and pants, although I don't think they're like separate. I don't think you can take them off. They're like knit into the bear, but I have some bright colors for that, so I thought I would do that. So I just wanted to do a little more charity knitting, give back, and so I am working on that. So sip of tea, and then we'll talk about spinning, which has been my other hurdle this week. So last week I talked to you about how I was going to spin some Shetland from the Ross Farm. And it is a natural Shetland in gray, and it's the silvery gray. It's very pretty. I talked about it a little bit last week that this is roving. Most of what I spin is combed top and has been dyed. And so the difference between roving and a combed top is combed top has been put through a carder several times. All the fibers are going the same direction, so it is a nice smooth spin. The fiber is also fairly compact. That is, there's not a lot of air in between it. So all the fiber is going in the same direction, which makes for a smooth spin, and it's very compact, so there's lots of dense fiber. It lends itself well to worsted spinning, which is generally the kind of spinning that I do. It produces a smoother yarn, and what I do, most people affectionately call the inchworm, which is when you are spinning and you are drafting your fiber up near the orifice where it is being spun, you are kind of inching the fiber along as you are feeding it into the spinning wheel. So, and that is kind of the way that I primarily spin. Roving, on the other hand, is a little bit less processed. It is combed through. Well, I should say it is washed, it is scoured, it is combed through. So it is clean. And a lot of the fibers are going in similar directions, but I don't know if you can see this. I'm trying to get this up really close. I don't know if you can see like all the differences in the gray there and how the fibers are all curly, and there's still lots of crimp and bounce and lots of air in here. And the fibers are basically not all completely smooth going the same direction. So that is the first thing. This is roving, or what some people call sliver, I believe. And so it is not as processed as the other stuff that I spin. And it does not lend itself to quite the smooth spinning. A lot of people spin fiber prep like this more worsted, or sorry, more woolen, which is a lot of people spin it long draw. Because the fibers are all kind of twisted and curled together, they stick together a little bit better, so you can pull and kind of let it draft itself a little bit more. But it does lend itself to a spin that is a little bit more uneven, just as clumps of fiber get stuck together. And so it is not really a style that I end up spinning very often. The final thing that I will say, so I should say a few things. One is that this is definitely clean fiber. However, I believe there's a little bit more lanolin in it than comb to top, where comb to top is really scoured and it's dyed and for the most part does not have any lanolin left in it. Or at least not such that you can feel it. This fiber is definitely a little bit stickier. It definitely smells a little bit sheepier. And after I've spun it for a little while, my hands feel a little bit softer, which leads me to believe that there is kind of the lanolin, the sheep oil in there. So I would say that this fiber is not, or my spinning style is not very well suited to this fiber. So in that sense, I'm finding it a little bit frustrating because drafting is not as easy for me, and I don't generally spin in woolen ways. And so I'm trying to be a little bit gentler so that I don't overspin this and end up with something wiry. But it's just not a style that I'm terribly used to. The final thing that I find a little bit frustrating, and this is kind of the only thing that I would say is, I don't want to say the fiber's fault because that's not what I mean, but the only thing that's frustrating that I don't think is a product of me as a spinner per se, you know, and how I'm approaching this is that there's a lot of vegetable matter in this. And vegetable matter, or VM for short, is lots of little bits of straw, and you can see the fiber there, but like lots of little bits of kind of straw and twigs and leaves and things that are not huge, but they're too small to be taken out by the mill or the combing process. But they are still in there and do not make for a very good spin. I'm trying to show you. Yeah, I can't tell my directions. So that's like a little bit of straw that's in there. So I'm finding this a little bit less fun to spin because there is lots of vegetable matter in here. And so every time I sit down to spin, I'm like trying to pick that stuff out, and it slows me down a lot. And then the other thing is I'm putting a towel down on my lap, which I don't always do, because after I am done spinning a bunch of the vegetable matter has like just fallen onto my lap. So I'm covered in like little bits of straw, leaves, twigs, whatever. So in general, the spin is just going a lot slower than I want it to, and it is not, it's exercising my skills as a spinner, which is a good thing, but it's not my stress-free happy place, which particularly this week with everything else going on, has been a little rough. So I have 6 ounces of this fiber. I am probably 3 to 3.5 ounces in. This is the final bump, because each bump is 2 ounces. So my hope is that I can get it finished this week, so that I can get it plied up. I'm not sure how that will work since I'm only going to be here part of the week this week, but that is what I am up to. I should say that I really don't think, other than the vegetable matter, I don't think there's anything wrong with this fiber, and the vegetable matter is not wrong with the fiber. It is just, it happens more often in fiber prep like this. So I would definitely just recommend that if you purchase from the Ross Fiber Farm, or the Ross Farm, that you are interested in spinning something that's a little bit more natural and a little bit closer to the original sheep wool than if you usually spin from combed and dyed top. So, and I won't lie, I spin from combed and dyed top quite a bit, and that is probably my favorite way to spin, and I am just not a spinner who enjoys spinning from various stages of processed fleece. So, I really think I am going to like the finished yarn. The process, like I said, has been a little slow and has required lots of attention this week. And so it's not been kind of my stress-free, meditative, sit down after work and de-stress. And so that has been a little frustrating. But I am hoping to finish it up, and I do love the way it is spinning up. It's spinning up with a little bit of a halo, which most of the comb top don't. And I think it is going to be really nice and woolly. It's just not what I'm normally used to using. So I think that's all I have for this week. I will say a couple things. One is that the spring make-along is still in the works. The deal is that I'm working with another podcast, or technically two podcasters, and we are kind of going back and forth editing the Google Doc right now for all the rules. But I will tell you these things, because these things will not change. Sorry, I have fiber in my nose. We will start, it is a spring make-along, and we will start on March 20th, which is the spring equinox, and we will run until summer solstice, which is June 21st. So it's a good long, we will start on March 20th. I can't remember if I said March or April. March 20th, which is the spring equinox, and run to summer solstice, which is June 21st, and that means that it will be a 3-month make-along. When I say it is a spring make-along, we are focusing on spring garments. So sweaters, tops, skirts, dresses, and shawls. And applicable crafts for this time around will be knitting, crocheting, and sewing. And I know that the rules are a little bit different than most of my make-alongs. So part of that is that I'm teaming up with some other podcasters who have some things in mind in their group. And then the final thing I will say is that we've talked about linen and cotton blends. If you have those and would like to use those kind of for spring, summer garments, this would totally be the time to do that. So I expect that we will have the rules finished. Well, we will certainly have them finished by March 20th. I don't know how much before then, because that's only like a week and a half away. It's Thursday, March 20th, which is not this coming week, but the following week. So start thinking about what you would like to make. Like I said, it is a nice long knit along. Make along. Sorry, we are using make along. There will be prizes. I'm going to donate a couple, and the other podcasters are going to donate a couple. There will be chat threads in each of our groups. You are encouraged to go watch the others' podcast and participate there, and I will announce who it is next week. The only reason I'm not doing it yet is because we're going back and forth, and I don't know if they've announced yet. So that is what is coming up. So start thinking about your spring garments. Whips will be okay as long as they are less than 50%, which brings me to what I'm going to work on. I think the first thing I'm going to work on is my boxy, because it is a lightweight sweater and it is one of those that I got kind of off track on. The other thing that I thought about pulling out is I was going to do that Pismo Beach pullover, and I started that last summer, and it's a nice lacy kind of overshirt. Originally, it came with sleeves, and I was thinking about not doing the sleeves, and now I don't know if I'll do the sleeves. I think I'll have enough yarn. But so my plan is to maybe pull out those two. I think the Pismo Beach pullover probably needs to be ripped, because it's got kind of a lace pattern on the in columns, and I know I've messed up a couple of them. So I'll probably rip that basically back to the hem and start again there. And then my boxy, I think I finished one of the 4 skeins, but that's it. I took that with me in January when I went over to England, and I haven't pulled it out since. So that is what I'm going to make for the make-along, but you should start thinking about what you might want to. So I think that's it for this week. I hope that you have a lovely weekend and a lovely week ahead. Reminder again, I will not be podcasting next weekend, probably early the following week. I am going to try and take a few days off and go to a pen show and have some fun and de-stress and not think about my failed projects at home or some of my work. But I hope you have a lovely week, and until I see you again, I will say happy knitting, happy spinning, happy sipping, and I'll see you next time. Bye!